Well, and then it's going to get even more confusing for Sukkot, and I was thinking ahead. So Sukkot is a 7-day holiday, but the Yom Tov is 1 and 8. Is it still Sukkot on the 8th day? No. No. So the 8th day is a solemn gathering, and that's where this Shmini Atzeret. Shmini is 8th, and Atzeret is the word that's solemn. That's the Hebrew word that's used in this verse. Okay, so it's this 8th day of solemnity. And that becomes the Yom Tov. The last day of Sukkot is not. Verse 37, those are the set times of the Lord that you shall celebrate as sacred occasions, bringing offerings by fire to the Lord. Burnt offerings, meal offerings, sacrifices, and libations, on each day what is proper to it. Apart from thee, that should be Sabbaths of the Lord, and apart from your gifts and from all your votive offerings and from all. So, right, these sacrifices are different than what we do on a normal basis. Mark on the 15th day of the 7th month, when you have gathered in the field of your land, you shall observe a festival of the Lord to last 7 days, a complete rest on the first day and a complete rest on the 8th day. There's repetition. This is the exact same chapter. This is what follows. There's repetition because we're getting kind of a different element of ritual. On the first day, you shall take the product of hadar trees, branches of palm trees, boughs of leafy trees, and willows of the brook, and you shall rejoice before the Lord your God 7 days. You shall observe it as a festival of the Lord for 7 days in the year. You shall observe it in the 7th month as a law for all time throughout the ages. You shall live in booths 7 days. This is the first time we've seen live in booths, right? Live in booths 7 days. All citizens in Israel shall live in booths, in order that future generations may know that I made the Israelite people live in booths when I brought them out of the land of Egypt. I am the Lord your God. So Moses declared to the Israelites the set times of the Lord. Now, what's interesting here, and these are not words that you need for the test. I talked about Judaism, right? What's happening here is another word that I'm not sure is a real word or not. Historicization. Is that a word? I don't know. Probably not, but I'm going to use it anyway. Do we ever see the Israelites living in booths? Right? When we're reading the story of the Exodus, and they established booths there and lived in them? No. This is the first we've heard of it, and it's really the only time we'll hear of it. But it's a reason that's given for why we live in the booths. Why do we actually have it? Right? I don't know. One guess might be that it was a ritual that existed. One guess. I mean, we talk about showing the non-permanence with yeah, that's something like that of life, right? Temporary nature, we could say, right? But here we have a very clear, because the Israelites lived in booths in the land of Egypt. The other time I'm going to use historicization, when we get to Passover, right? Matzah is going to be questionable. Right? Because we're going to see one story where it's right, the bread didn't have time to rise, but it's iffy. Okay, so there's something that we were doing, and we put it into a historical nature. I'm not saying the Israelites didn't live in booths in Egypt. I don't know. I wasn't there, right? But we don't see it anywhere else. So this could be an example of historicizing a ritual, taking something that people were doing and putting it backwards in time to legitimize. Okay? That's a real word. Yeah. No, I got that. Okay. Now, we're not going to read Sukkot in the... we'll read Sukkot in the prophets. Because Nehemiah, so they just find the Torah. Okay? They found written in the teaching that the Lord had commanded Moses that the Israelites must dwell in booths during the festival of the 7th month. And they must announce and proclaim throughout all their towns in Jerusalem as follows. Go out to the mountains and bring leafy branches of olive trees, pine trees, myrtles, palms, and other leafy trees to make booths, as it is written. So the people went out and brought them and made themselves booths on their roofs and their courtyards and the courtyards of the house of God, in the square of the water gate and in the square of the Ephraim gate. The whole community that returned from the captivity made booths and dwelt in booths. The Israelites had not done so from the days of Joshua, son of Nun, to that day. Who was Joshua?
The son of
No, Joshua was the one who took over from Moses. Okay? So Joshua, he was the son of Nun, right? But he took over from Moses. He was one of the spies who came back and said, yes, we can do it. But what that means, what does that mean? The Israelites had not done so from the days of Joshua, son of Nun, to that day. So this was just coming back from the Babylonian exile. What does that mean? Yeah, but what had not happened from the time that we entered? They just said, live in booths because we haven't been doing it. Right? I think that's amazing. It doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the holiday. But when we talk about changes in the religion, when we talk about maybe even the Reform movement and reclaiming certain traditions, because I'm going to talk about how Sukkot, a lot of people think of it as a children's holiday, or they think of it as not so important. The main reason Sukkot gets a bum rap, I think, especially in this country, is that everyone's tired after Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Right? We just did Jewish for like a whole week and a half, and then you tell me there's another holiday a week later? Like, what are you trying to do to me? Right? But it really, when we think about all the things this holiday offers, it's not just for kids. And it is something like, we were just in the synagogue for so long. This is something that we can do at home that's really something unique, right? Even if it's something we stole from the pagans, it's pretty unique now, for sure. All right. I'm all over the place tonight, so I apologize. I hope are we connecting some dots? Okay, so Lulav and Etrog. What we read in the Torah, all we got is, it's actually on that same page. All we got is product of hadar trees, branches of palm trees, boughs of leafy trees, and willows of the brook. It really, and even that's more specific than the Hebrew. From the Hebrew, we know there are 4 things, but we really don't know what they are. This passage from Sukkot 32b, we're not going to read it because it's confusing, but this is where the rabbis show us how we get from that verse to the etrog, right, the citron, the willow, the leaves and a branch from the willow, a branch from the palm, and the myrtle. Okay, and when it is Sukkot, even though we've already talked about Sukkot, we'll bring in a real lulav and etrog for you all to see. Okay? So that passage shows us how the rabbis explain how we get from the Torah, which is nondescript, to these 4 very specific things. Just like how we get from thou shalt not work to the 39 acts of labor that are forbidden. Okay, everyone with me? Now the next thing that the rabbis are going to do is say it's not just about these 4 items, it's about what these 4 items represent, because for the rabbis it was not a fertility ritual, right? It wasn't a rain dance, even though rain probably had something to do with it. But it had to have deeper meaning. So we get 2 different explanations. One, and I think this was in your reading, one, the fruit of the hadar tree symbolizes Israel. Did Rabbi talk about this? No? Okay. So the etrog represents just as the etrog has taste and smell, right? That the citron, you smell it and you taste it. So does Israel have among them men who possess learning and good deeds, right? People who study and live a good life. The branches of the palm tree also represents Israel, because the palm tree has taste but no smell. And so too in Israel do we have people who possess learning but not good deeds. There are people who spend all day studying but don't live good lives, right? The rabbis acknowledge that you can be a brilliant scholar and not be nice to people. Boughs of thick trees, right? That's the myrtle. Also applies to Israel. Just as the myrtle has smell but no taste, so does Israel have among them those who do good deeds but are not learning. And the willow also applies to Israel. The willow has no taste and no smell, and Israel has among them people who possess neither learning nor good deeds, right? And what do we do with these four different kinds of people? Do we get rid of one? No, right? We hold them all together. What then does the Holy One, blessed be He, do to them? To destroy them is impossible. But says the Holy One, blessed be God, let them all be tied together in one band, and they will atone one for another. If you have done so, says God, then at that instance I am exalted. Right? I love it. I love it. The other thing that will happen, and I think it's lower, and we're not going to have time to read it. This is another midrash that I gave you. The etrog will represent the heart. The willow will represent the lips. The palm will represent the spine, and the myrtle will represent the eyes, right? Showing how every sense that we have, every part of us, has to work together to build who we are. Just as Israel has different elements, so do we have different elements inside us. Does that mean one is right, one is wrong? No, that's different explanations that the rabbis gave for the same thing. Okay? Good. The sukkah itself. This is from Jewish Living, a Guide to Contemporary Reform Practice, which is a fantastic book by a teacher of mine that goes through what Jewish law can mean in a reformed, progressive lifestyle. I recommend it. The passage that I had on the Shabbat handout, on the back of the Shabbat handout, was from the same book. We're not going to read it now, but what I do want to talk about is the sukkah itself. It's a temporary structure. I also have here from the conservative counterpart to that book by Dr. Schaarai, a book called, I don't remember what it's called, by Klein. And this is more specific directions for what a sukkah has to be. You can take this on the way out if you want. What we wanted to show you all tonight is that it's really not so hard to make a sukkah. This is a homemade sukkah kit that Rabbi Bernholtz and I built together. It's all PVC pipe and outdoor furniture connectors that you can get at any, there's a place on Dale Mabry that's a PVC furniture place, and they sell the connectors. All we did was bought a bunch of 6-foot pieces of PVC pipe, or a bunch of, you could just get 3-foot pieces of PVC pipe. Home Depot, I think, will cut them for you. We cut them ourselves because we like to put ourselves at risk. Here, if we walk over, you guys want to come over and then I'll let you go from here? A temporary structure, right? That's the big legal problem with our sukkah outside that you saw. It's a temporary structure. It needs to have 3 walls. At least 3 walls, 2 of which, and you'll read this, but I think 2 of the walls have to be temporary. So when you're building a sukkah, a traditional sukkah, one of the walls can be from your house, right? So if you were building